Mahito is back! The curse that tormented Yuji Itadori has finally arrived, and we already know what that means. Yuji is gonna come back to set a new Black Flash record on his ass, going above 8, because Yuji was the one that promised Mahito that even if he changed his name or form, he would make sure to kill him again. But how exactly did Mahito return in Tsurugi's consciousness, and why is he looking for Yuji? Well, stick around to find out, because this isn't the only thing. Maki's granddaughter Yuka, the supposed prodigy of the new generation, is dying. She has only 6 months left to live.
Cut the show. I'm done.
The chapter opens right where we left off. Tsurugi on the verge of death after Maru's berserk rampage. But just before he's about to reunite with Maki and Yuta, Tsurugi shouts out that he thought they would be neighbors. On hearing this, Cross immediately jumps in, shutting his brother down. All to save Tsurugi. But he's not here out of kindness. He wants answers. What the hell did Tsurugi mean by becoming neighbors? The Sumerians lost everything. Their home, their memories, their entire world was wiped clean. Forced to take refuge on Earth, they have been living as outsiders. And whilst Cross believes humans could never truly understand their pain, Maru has now convinced Tsurugi to think differently, moving away from the nihilistic view that he had when the sequel first started. He now believes they could be friends who understand why the things you treasure matter. Alright, come on guys, it's a shonen. Every bloody story is about power of friendship somehow.
Boring.
I feel like this entire sequel is just based on the final line Yuji said to Sukuna about living alongside each other rather than being curses. And Gege is just showcasing if that is actually possible now. Every blimey chapter that has come out expands on that question with politics or religion. And I know you guys find both those subjects boring as shit. But hey, don't worry, I'm here to break this all down. To put it simply, it's all about acceptance. Even if someone's way of life isn't like yours, you still respect what's sacred to them. So when Tsurugi dares to say they could actually be neighbors, Cross loses it. My guy, after binging some history balls deep, which we will drop in the future, immediately brings up Japan's war crimes from World War II. He straight up asks, how could humans and Sumerians ever be neighbors when humanity couldn't even live peacefully with itself? He reminds Tsurugi that the only reason Japan found peace was after getting nuked by the allied great powers. So Cross decides to drop his own bombs for now. He tells him straight up the peaceful world that they live in. They were spoon-fed that luxury. With their planet's condition, they didn't even have to strive just to live, alluding to the Sumerian planet being extremely volatile, where survival of the fittest was likely a common occurrence, reflecting Sukuna's upbringing in the Golden Age. So when Cross, who parallels the King of Curses, looks at Earth's comfortable peace, he sees privilege. Privilege built on someone else's suffering. And then he completely flips. Cross accuses Tsurugi, and by extension all of humanity, of seeing the Sumerians as dangerous, filthy, weak refugees. Oh, where did I hear that before? Okay, if you guys have been paying attention, this is classic Gege Akutami social commentary. He's pulling straight from real world politics, how nations exploit peace treaties and refugee alliances for their own gain, then act shocked when resentment explodes later on. In JJK universe, that's exactly what happened. Japan tried to exploit the Kyoto Paranormal Security Treaty for political advantage, turning a symbol of peace into a power grab. And just like that, the whole system spiraled out of control. Oh, and by the way, whilst all of this chaos is unfolding, the curse user that Maru literally clapped uses this moment to run for his life. If Tsurugi hadn't stepped in to stop Maru from killing a human, that geezer would have been a smear on the pavement. But his luck doesn't last long, because he immediately gets cooked by none other than Usumi. Usumi reveals his snake eye. Yep, he got the Unomaki clan inherited technique, curse speech, with just one word: stop. This nonce just freezes in place. He hasn't moved. Within seconds, this cursed user gets absolutely destroyed. This also confirms something crazy. The Usumi from Gojo's era must have married into the Unomaki family, which explains why our new sensei is rocking both the cursed speech and the Usami family name. Either way, after cleaning up the trash, he heads straight to Cross and tries to negotiate, asking him to let Maru recover on Earth instead of being sent back to their ship. His reasoning: if the other Sumerians saw Maru's damaged body, it only sparked more anger and mistrust. He's trying to prevent a war before it starts. But obviously, in Cross's perspective, there are zero reasons to trust them, and so he rejects this proposal and sends his brother back to the ship to get patched up. Speaking of patches, with his brother out of the picture, Cross takes Maru's third eye bandage and goes on an espionage mission to infiltrate the sorcerers so he can figure out what they actually believe, which brings us to Mahito.
How? I don't know.
The curse born from humanity's hatred is back. There are two ways we can look at this. Number one, Mahito is still in limbo and Tsurugi's near-death experience brought him there, where my guy is currently recharging so he can make his actual return. Similar to what Yuji experienced when Yuta almost killed him. He kinda crossed into this realm and finally remembered his parents. Tsurugi might be having a similar experience, touching the space between dream and reality where Mahito currently remains. At the end of Jujutsu Kaisen, Mahito was shown to be waiting there, but now we know for sure that either he must be waiting for Yuji to die and join him, or for him to reincarnate. Remember, Mahito's manifestation to come alive again must be hitting its peak. He was a new cursed spirit that was created through modern society. Mahito believes he was born through human transgressions and considers himself the very manifestation of humans' hatred of each other. We were told by Nanami that Mahito only received a human shape recently and became a special grade. This hints to us that the current society of Jujutsu Kaisen gave birth to his rising. But why does Mahito say, damn, so it's not him after all? This clearly seemed that he was indeed waiting for Yuji, and that our OG GOAT is not dead. Remember, Kenjaku had fashioned Yuji to be the ultimate vessel. From birth, the boy's body was built different, stronger, faster, and very likely can last much longer than any ordinary human. Unless, of course, they're slipping on that Game of Kool-Aid. But you guys can too with our link in the comment section down below. Use our code ABD to get 10% off. But regardless, this could be a foreshadowing of Yuji's current status, along with Mahito's impatience. Which brings us to number 2. Mahito, if he isn't about to be reborn, is already here. Ever since the arrival of the Sumerians, hatred has exploded. Racism, paranoia, conspiracies, entire nations blaming the newcomers for their problems, all amplifying fear. This surge of collective negativity must have fast-tracked Mahito's rebirth. Likewise, we don't know much about the negative energy the Sumerians give off. You know, some of the Sumerians might be just like the monkeys, who do give off their excess negative energy. With all of that, Tsurugi gets up in a jolt, and the first thing he thinks about is his sister, asking if Yuka is okay. Yep, luckily she ain't dead. Well, not yet. Cross tells Tsurugi they are just doing checks on her, otherwise she seems fine. In the meantime, playing dumb, he says that he heard Cross had arrived, hoping to see what Tsurugi has to say about him. Well, it works, and my boy literally questions if Cross is always pissed off. Not gonna lie, this was a funny interaction as Cross tries to tell him that he isn't like that all the time. It's here that Tsurugi opens up. He apologizes about talking smack in regards to the potential invasion and calling Maru a freeloader. As before, he did not understand the full scope of the Sumerian circumstances until now. This honest and heartfelt apology seemed to have surprised Cross, but that's cut short with Tsurugi questioning whether Maru will be in trouble for using using his technique, in which of course Cross says nah, it's gonna be okay. When Yuka finally arrives, Cross welcomes her with Maru's playful antics, and we then learn from Tsurugi what Maru displayed against the cursed user was easily on par with a first grade sorcerer. Nah, like damn what? Nah, this guy is definitely special grade. But anyways, they decide to head to, a fun fair as Maru had wanted to go earlier. Cross, however, isn't too amused, but still plays his disguise. Slowly, he starts to be shown as someone more normal and potentially even a very kind-hearted person. We see this fully displayed when a little boy loses his Halloween balloon for Cross to quickly catch and return it back to him. They find out that this boy is actually lost, so Tsurugi and Mino head off to find some help. It's here that Cross tries to cheer the boy up. Well, kinda, because he straight up tells the boy to stop crying, keep quiet and patiently wait. Well, why? Well, the boy hasn't really lost his family. They're still alive. This mini rant takes Yuka and the boy out for a second, but then the boy activates his water-style dojutsu. Seeing how his pep talk had completely failed, Cross relies on his acrobatic skills to cheer the kid. This actually works somehow, it just does. With that, the boy's mother finally is drawn into the scene. She finds her son and they say their goodbyes. The kid gives Cross his balloon as a thank you, but seeing the words of Halloween written on it, Cross questions what it all means. It's here where we finally get to the root of this story. Yuka explains that Halloween is a Christian holiday, which she heard once belonged to another religion. However, Yuka, don't worry, you're spot on. Before Halloween was adopted by the West as a cultural phenomena, the costumes, candies, and horror movies, Halloween was something entirely different. It began as the eve of All Hallows Day, a Christian festival meant to honor the dead, saints, martyrs, and loved ones who had passed away. This period was called All Hallowtide. However, if you trace it even further back, its roots go deep into the ancient Celtic tradition, specifically the Gaelic festival of Samhain, a harvest ritual marking the end of summer and the beginning of the dark half of the year. During Samhain, it was also believed that the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred, allowing spirits to cross over, which I believe is again a foreshadowing to Mahito's return. Hearing about Christianity though, Cross starts further questioning if everyone on Earth believes in it. Yuka explains how it's only followed by 20 to 30% of the world's population, but in Japan, majority of the people don't bother with religion. The country itself just adopts any and all kinds of holidays to rejuvenate the country's economy. The conversation then takes a deeper turn, with Cross following up in asking if the humans believe in one particular god. Yuka straight up says she's an atheist and then questions Cross's position in all of this, but in doing so reveals she also knows it's Cross and not Maru, like it was fairly obvious, especially when he starts cooking the little kid just for crying. But moving past his disguise being blown away, Cross continues the conversation to reveal the people of Sumeria do follow one god. Yuka for some reason starts to show how out of touch she is with the concept of a believing in something greater than life itself. She brings us an old practice that happened in Japan called Fumi. In 1629, Christianity was banned. Slabs with carvings of Jesus was passed around to be stepped on as a test to see who has not truly abandoned the religion. The believers would then be executed. However, Yuka reveals that if she were a believer, she would have stepped on the slab and just repented afterwards. To her, it's like dying for no reason. She says that she can respect other cultures and their beliefs, but can't understand why they would value it to that degree. From the perspective of an atheist, her paradigm does make sense. With no God, no judgment, no hereafter, and no accountability, the world that is important is the one we are living in. So the value of life obviously takes precedence over all things. However, her statement showcases that she can't truly put herself into the position of others and value what they treasure, i.e. become a true neighbor. Cross calls out this hypocrisy and questions if the slab were instead a living being, would she still have stepped on it? Yuka stops to think that she never thought about it that way. Cross then states that she and her brother are bozos and their way of thinking is shallow, because people like Yuka trampled on their lives unknowingly. When they did notice their plight, they would refuse to take action. Another time, they would actually steal from them. But Cross takes the conversation to a new turn altogether. if things were stolen from you, it doesn't give you the right to steal from others. But he also believes that those who endure theft are very likely to engage in it themselves. And so the humans better be ready and prepare themselves. Yuka catches this as a straight declaration of war. These Sumerians want to take their planet. However, instead of reacting poorly, she actually tries to convince Cross to change his mind. How? Well, by making him tag along with her to a doctor's appointment, where we find out she's about to die in 6 months. She goes in to get a second opinion and a scan of her brain, which reveals a form of cancer. She brought Cross along to avoid being alone in confirming this tragic news, but at the same time not feel pitied, hence he was a better choice than her brother. Now I know this girl is joking here, but Yuka straight up says only if there was a Prince Charming to save her from this predicament. Now, this gotta be Yuji. I'm taking the best. Yuji's the old man at this point. But this tension between her and Cross might be actually a foreshadowing. Who knows? However, instead of consolation, Cross gives us a reality check. This news of her impending death will make her remaining moments feel empty. Eventually, Yuka's mind will start resenting her situation to build hatred, asking why me? These thoughts were once echoed within Cross's own mind, and so his self-projection stems from the future that was stolen from him as his planet suffered a man-made disaster. Yuka tries to prod and find out what exactly happened to his people so they can figure out a way to coexist. However, Cross's trust in others is at an absolute zero, and he would rather go down the route of stealing from the people of Earth rather than to compromise, only to find out in the end they will just suffer once again. Yuka then channels her inner Naruto and gives him a final speech no jutsu. She explains that hating people and stealing from them is easy, but this is the very reason it becomes an endless cycle. So Yuka proposes that together they should try to put an end to the cycle once and for all. But will she even survive to accomplish this goal? Well, according to Mahito's power, we know that the soul and the body are connected to the point where if the soul is changed, the body will too. In Mahito's understanding, the shape of the body is actually dependent on the shape of the soul. He could potentially fix her brain, or Yuji Itadori, who understands the contours of the soul, can see them. He could also possibly create a solution of destroying the cancer. Like, come on, this is Jujutsu Kaisen. Something will happen. She ain't gonna die. If she does that, I'm gonna rage quit. Like, this Gege managed to bring back Nober from the dead. You're telling me she can't heal her brain tumor? These guys got alien technology and shit. Nah, come on. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the chapter. Make sure to smash